Right. Well, thanks for having me tonight. I know I'm the last talk, so we'll try to keep it fun. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about how, depending on what company or project you're working on, you may be able to use the press to achieve a goal that you have. And this is a little bit of a different way to think about using the press than I think a lot of people do. And I'm going to share how at Pi we use that specifically in the context of TechCrunch Disrupt to achieve some major objectives that we had. So a couple of really quick goals that hopefully we'll achieve in the next 15 minutes or so. I want to introduce the concept of objective-based press. I want to actually cover some of the tactics of how you might go about a launch and involving the press and the media. And I'm going to weave into that a little bit of our story of how we actually did it, and then we'll get some questions. So this is my co-founder Li-Xin and I. As Jeff appropriately noted, Li-Xin is the genius. I am the not genius in our company. But we co-founded Pi a little over 2 years ago and brought it out of an MIT lab in the computer science and AI lab at MIT. And it was based on some incredible wireless charging work that Li-Xin had done as a part of his PhD. And this is the full Pi team. So anytime that you hear about anything that we've done that worked, don't just see me, see all of these people. And actually, we're even missing one person in this picture who missed picture day. So it takes a village. So what do we do at Pi? Well, very briefly, we solve this problem. The problem of all the charging cables, the nest of wires, the dead batteries that we all live amidst throughout our whole life. And our mission at Pi is to replace all of that with something much more elegant. Oh, sorry. Actually, this is the first prototype that we brought a version of to Jeff's office. So he asked me to throw this in. Didn't start out super elegant, but when we were first coming out of the lab, we had this prototype that could charge multiple devices at a time at any angle. And didn't look much like a product, but a couple of weeks ago, we actually showed that prototype in product form at TechCrunch Disrupt. So we've come a long way. So when is it an appropriate time to get press for your company or to get the media involved? I think that there's a very, very clear answer to this, which is when you have an objective that you need to achieve with your business. So I'm going to talk afterwards about what it isn't, but let's just start with this concept. So I want to relate this to experience I had over the summer. My wife planned an incredible trip to Norway to do some hiking, which I'm not very good at. And occasionally you come across something like this, which is a little hard to see in the slide, but it's basically a rock face. And there's a chain going up it. And, the chain is there to help you get down the rock face. And so, you don't need a chain when you're walking. You need a chain in this situation. That's my wife clambering down this crazy thing. And that's me making good use of the chain. But you don't need the chain when you're about to arrive at your destination. And the analogy here is when your business is going great, when sales are going to the moon, whatever, that's when you start to get calls from media outlets. That's also when you don't need the media. You don't need the attention at that point. You just closed a round, great. Great. You don't need TechCrunch to write a piece about you. They would love to, but that doesn't actually help you get anything done. So I want to encourage everyone to think about it not in the sense of when can you get press, but when can press help you do something. And that's how we thought about it at Pi. So what are some examples of things you might want to do? Well, I am the business guy in the company, so I tend to relate objectives to something that might bring money in. You may have other objectives that don't have to be these, but these are just some examples. Fundraising is one that's obvious. You need to get a round done. You want to get some investor attention. You want to get the investors listening and excited about your space. That's a great time. You want to begin sales of your product or your service. That's another great time. No one's heard about it. Press is free advertising. And finally, partnerships. And I'll come to how this affected Pi, but this is something that I think a lot of people overlook. If you assume that investors read the press, they read the newspaper, media, they read some blogs, well, guess what? so do executives at huge companies. So if you're trying to get your robotics deal done with General Motors, you may think that nobody there is going to hear about you if you do a launch and you get an article written in Engadget. Actually, they probably will. So that's another way you can use it. So where press coverage will not help you. First of all, getting some press coverage today will not help you get press coverage tomorrow. And the analogy here from my fellow Torontonian Drake is YOLO, you only launch once. And so you cannot put that cat back in the bag. Once you have revealed your company to the world, nobody cares to hear about you revealing your company to the world a second time. So make it count. The second one is focus. When you open your company up to public attention, it is the biggest distraction that you have ever experienced in your life. And the more successful you are at opening your company up to the world, the bigger the distraction is. And that distraction affects you, it affects your employees, your team, it affects your partners, your contractors, your investors, it affects everyone around you, friends and family. All of them suddenly have all these new great ideas that you should pursue. They have new partnerships they want you to explore. They have new product features they think you should build. None of this may be on your roadmap. Some of it may be good ideas. All of it is distracting. So beware of that before you begin this process. And finally, competition. I don't have anything really direct to say about this yet, thankfully, but the reality is that when you're quiet as a company about what you're doing and how you're doing it, it is very hard for your competition to basically do anything competitive. They can't copy you if they don't know what you're doing. But as soon as you get in front of a bunch of reporters and you say, hey, we have this great idea. It's to do A, B, and C in those steps. And by the way, we have barely any money to do it, so if you'd like to fund us, that'd be great. It just may be, depending on your space, that there's somebody out there that has the money and could do A, B, and C a little faster than you, maybe even a little better. So just beware that, as Andy Grove said, only the paranoid survive. So who can help? Well, first of all, your investors can help. And that goes for the smallest angel, friends and family check that you've ever accepted, all the way up to your fantastic partner of a seed stage firm or whatever stage you're at. They know reporters, they have friends who know reporters, they will tell their own friends and family, they have social media followings. All of this stuff is powerful and helpful. Ask them for their support and their help. They want you to succeed just as much as you do. Now you have some event organizers. This is Samantha Stein and Nisha Tembe from the TechCrunch Disrupt event. They are the people that behind the scenes make sure that the whole competition runs smoothly, and they broke their backs to make sure every competitor in the competition put their best foot forward. Some of the teams utilized their help, listened to their advice, engaged with them. Some teams didn't. And I think you can bet that that's going to pay off for you. So no matter what event you decide to be a part of, whether it's a small pitch-off or whether it's some huge international awards ceremony, which I've never been a part of, but I hope you will one day, engage with the organizers. They know who's going to be there. They know who you should talk to. And they want you to be successful because if you're successful and make a big splash at their event is successful. Now, I didn't fully appreciate this, but this is a really, really important point. So please don't overlook those people that are in the background making things happen for the events you participate in. And finally, there's what I like to call the others. If you are a fan of basketball, maybe you watch Inside the NBA, you'll know that Shaq and the gang think that the others are critical to every team that wants to win a championship. Well, who are the others? The others are role players who may be outside of your core, most important team, but who have a critical function to play in your company's success. In a startup, they could be contractors. In this case, maybe a PR firm or a consultant. And they can be extremely helpful. We worked with a firm called VSC that was tremendous. They can be contractors that may help you with some branding, may help you rehearse your pitch. Not everyone's a great speaker, but you think your company should do a live event. There are people who can help you with that. Some of them will help you for free. Some of them will charge you a ton of money. Depending on your budget, you can get that problem solved. Don't disregard how much people outside of your immediate circle can help you achieve your goals with media and with launching. So then you go into preparation mode. It's heads down. You know, the launch day is coming. We've got to get everything ready. This is a photo shoot happening actually for one of the pictures that I showed earlier in my slide deck in our office kitchen, which was a lot of fun. A couple days before, we met this gentleman, Chris. So Chris did all the AV behind the scenes for the Disrupt event. And I'm not sure whether I became friends with Chris or whether I was just a huge nuisance by the end, but we got to know each other pretty well. And everything from asking him if I could test my third backup clicker in case the others ran out of battery. I think he thought I was a little nuts on that one. To making sure that our demo would work on stage. By the way, we had 2 backup units hidden under the demo table. You need to prepare for every eventuality, especially if you're doing something live, so that you don't screw it up. Because shit happens, and you better be ready for it when everyone's watching. And this is a picture of our whiteboard of all the things that we needed to tell Chris and get ready backstage beforehand. Please don't try to read all these. It's pretty embarrassing. It's like place receivers to the side of the table. Like, we got really detailed about what had to happen beforehand. And you know what? It was worth it. And so you better take it seriously as well if you're going to have a live reveal. And if you're lucky, then it'll work out even better than you expected. I mean, we didn't go to TechCrunch expecting to win the Battlefield competition. We just went there hoping to get some attention for our company, get some great articles written, talk to some reporters afterwards, talk to some investors afterwards. You know, the objective that we really had in mind was actually not to win, it was to do a Series A. So that was why we were doing it. But things worked out, and we were fortunate enough to come home with the trophy. But this leads into one of my final and really important points, which is you prepared for failure so that you wouldn't fail, but make sure you remember to prepare for success. So what happened to us is, after we got off stage, the articles started to come in. We had, Engadget, we had Mac Rumors, we had, 9 to 5 Mac, all these outlets I'd never heard of. Associated French Press did something that got syndicated around the world. It was amazing. And the result was, this is the night after the launch. We didn't even go home from the event. We went to Leishan's car and started debugging some problems with our email. It turns out that we created our SendGrid account only a couple days before the event, and they kind of put you on probation for the first 2 weeks. So they were throttling the pace that our emails were going out at. But thanks to all this press, and thanks to specifically the AFP article overnight, there were all these people in Europe trying to reserve all night. And so we were getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reservations like every 15 minutes, which, SendGrid thought we were spammers, basically. So, we did solve that thanks to Leishan's genius. And so, it gets really, really hectic, and you better be prepared for that. And you better remember, why did you do this in the first place? So amidst all the attention you're getting now, hopefully you've done a good launch, you now need to choose. You need to go back to, why did we do this in the first place? And let's focus on that. So, you take your draft pick. Hopefully you pick as well as the Knicks did a couple years ago. And, that's going to feel great. But what's not going to feel great is, there are a couple people you're going to disappoint. This gentleman was not picked in the 2015 draft. And it doesn't mean that you will never talk to those other companies, those other investors, those other people that want a job who weren't the focus of why you did the press. You will. Be polite. But just remember, time is of the essence. You've got a job to do. You did this launch for a reason. Don't get distracted by all the other opportunities. We had 4 of the top 5 consumer electronics OEMs in the world reach out to us the week after the event. Some of them at an executive level. That wasn't why we did it. So while we did open those conversations, we're putting them on hold for the future. So stay focused. And when you achieve your goals, and I can't comment exactly on our A, but let's say that Pi will be around for another couple of years. Don't forget who got you there. You're going to think that your team came along for this ride all the way, but they may not have gotten the opportunity to be on stage with you. Over appreciate them. I deeply love my team. We couldn't do anything without them. Make sure they know that. Make sure they feel that. They are who make you a successful launch. And so hopefully we've achieved some of the goals, and except for the last one, love to answer some questions.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. It's great. Can you talk a little bit about the product? How much is stealth versus not stealth? Whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
Sure. So, a little bit grayed out, but this is our first product, and it is a charger for phones and tablets primarily. As you can see here, we've got a couple of phones charging around the device. So, in a radius of around a foot from the device, you can charge up to 4 phones at a time. You can be holding the device, you can be moving it around, it can be at any angle. We will be starting to hopefully make some of our reservation holders happy with devices next year.
Great. And you selling it to consumers, to enterprises? What's the core target?
A little bit of both. So this specific device, our first one that we've revealed, was targeting consumers. So we would love, all of you to check out our website, check it out, and no money down right now, just email to reserve. However, the same core technology we are going to be applying into the enterprise, and we've, since TechCrunch, had the opportunity to meet with a few extremely large companies that are interested in deploying these in conference rooms, in shared spaces, office desks, things like that. And we will be having a specific offering for that eventually. And this one is more for kind of personal spaces, so a small huddle room, an office desk, things like that.
Good. I guess this place would not be a bad partner for you guys.
Yes. I mean, absolutely.
What's the target release date? Is that public?
We haven't talked about a release date yet, but it will be in 2018 and not Q1.
Okay, coming up soon. Do we have questions? One over here too, actually.
Besides the launch, what are some other milestones you foresee that you want to prepare for and get a tremendous amount of press for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think partnerships is one that's really overlooked. I mean, especially if you're a B2B company, you kind of think, oh, I've got to go in and find the decision-making unit at this like really massive company and pitch all of them and whatever. But if you have some press, you can send them some articles, or somebody in the decision-making unit has already heard about it. Like, that's the dream scenario. I had a discussion earlier today with a massive law firm that's really interested in deploying our product, and they had everyone I was talking to had already heard about it. They'd already watched the video. Like, I didn't even have to tell them anything, which is amazing. So I think partnerships is one. One I didn't put up here, but that is true, is hiring. So press can help with hiring. I would just caution, though, that everybody has hiring problems all the time. So I would put that a little bit lower down your ranking list, because if you say, well, press will help with hiring, well, I have problems with hiring. Well, yes, because you're a growing company, full stop, and you're going to have problems with hiring even after press. So it's a pseudo-object. It'll help with that, but I don't know I'd do it just for that.
Great. One last question, or actually two.
Yeah. Looking at what you have on the screen now and comparing it to the proof of concept version you had, did you know this was the version you wanted to end up with, or what was your journey like from that point to here, and how was that journey?
Well, do we have another 15 minutes? No. Yeah, so it was a long journey. So, I mean, yes and no. I actually, Jeff can probably say whether I'm lying or not, but I actually think that the vision for this product is extremely similar to what we initially pitched him on. I mean, I'm not an industrial designer, so I didn't come up with this like cool scalloped pattern and there's a little medallion on the top. We can have different color medallions, like none of that. I had no idea. So key thing to realizing that vision was building out our team, the engineering team that actually made it possible to make everything work inside of here. Industrial design, we worked with an incredible firm called Enlisted Design. When you pick your design firm, make sure you're extremely closely aligned with them. Do a deal that really embeds them in your team, because if it works, it's going to really work. And whether you like this design or not, we've gotten tremendous positive feedback on it. And believe it or not, it's actually extremely manufacturable. So they were a critical part. And then a lot of customer research. I mean, we had to really figure out what form factors people could have in different environments, what they would tolerate in different environments. And we're now going through that process for enterprise, so beginning the loop all over again. But happy to fill in more detail on that offline.
Great. Yes, one more. Last question of the evening.
Awesome. So you said you only launch once. And are you defining launch specifically as like launching in the press, or like, if you're like rolling out to like a small amount of beta users or whatever it is, and like still in stealth, does that, that doesn't spoil the launch?
Yeah. I think I am defining it as, I am defining it more in terms of press. So yes, at the same time, I would just caution that anytime your devices are going out into the wild, there is a risk of things being exposed. So actually, someone broke the story of us doing our seed round with Jeff, which we had been planning to save for a long time, because he's incredible and his brand would, him and his partner's brand would help us a little bit. Someone broke that story. I don't even know who, and we told very few people. So it just happens. So just be very careful with.
It was Jeff.
Oh, he broke it. Yeah. Just be very careful with the betas. But we won't point fingers, Jeff.
Ooh.
We're being videotaped. But actually, so that did happen also. Be careful of that. The Crunchbase thing, that's a real problem. Catch those investors and delete their entries if they're adding you. But yeah, I mean, press find out. That's their job. So just beware. But yeah, you can definitely do betas with NDAs, with friends and family you trust, and it not get broken. I mean, the classic one of that is Eero. I mean, I love those guys. Just incredible team and product. But they actually had beta units that were so polished. They had the Eero logo, and then they had like a silver foil, the word beta on all the beta units. And literally, if you were under 30 in San Francisco, you had a friend who lived in a house with roommates that had an Eero unit. Like there was like a 6-month period, and somehow that didn't get leaked, and they had an amazing. If you want to see like a textbook hardware launch, check out their launch. It was awesome. But they did a really robust beta that clearly could have been leaked, and they managed not to. So, just be careful.
Yes.
It sounds easy. I think you don't want to underestimate the work that Lishan and the team, and obviously John, sort of did once we had committed to do TechCrunch Disrupt. We didn't know we were going to win. I mean, I've won the cup 3 times, so I sort of have a sense of what it takes to sort of get there, and we sort of help them be prepared. But it depends on the competition, depends on a number of things. But the work that they put into getting to this quasi-perfect pitch, and I think I would suggest that if you want to see how it's done, just check John's final, like the second time on stage, because it was just a thing of beauty. And I saw it from my office, and I actually I canceled my next meeting, and I went to Disrupt, because when I saw it, I thought they can actually win. So, it's how it's done.
This is awesome. All right. Thank you very much both for sharing. We appreciate it.